Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman promised a budget like no other, and if one goes by the Wall Street's reactions, she has delivered the goods. While taxes were left untouched, the government pressed the accelerator on capital expenditure and has put the focus on revenue realization through disinvestment and asset monetization. In a third budget that is rightly being called as the Bold India Budget, the FM has announced to stand strong with the Atmanirbhar Bharat, incentivizing startups and MSMEs for making India self-reliant. Good morning again, and welcome to another informative episode of the Budget with HSBC series 21. My name is Razum, and I am again excited to welcome you today. I am sure viewers you'd agree that to say 2020 had been tough is an understatement, because for millions of SMEs in India, the COVID-19 pandemic triggered the big reset, and a lot of companies have shut down. The Modi-led government is expected to walk a tightrope between managing fiscal deficit and resetting the country's growth agenda. In today's panel, joining us again, we have Mayur Patni, Head Retail Business Banking with HSBC India. Mayur set up HSBC's first branch in Vadodara and achieved break-even in record time of doing it under 18 months. He's worked in the States for almost 3 years managing HSBC's NRI business there, and currently he's managing retail business banking in India for HSBC. Welcome, Mayur. Alongside, we also have Nilesh Talati, CFO Pepperfry. Nilesh is currently the CFO with Pepperfry.com and has over 2 decades of experience in corporate finance. Prior to Pepperfry, he held very senior positions with leading corporates like Hindustan Unilever and Vedanta. Having started as a trainee with Hindustan Unilever, Nilesh quickly rose to being the CFO of Unilever business in the Maastricht region, and subsequently going on to head Unilever Global Financial Planning and Analytics. In Vedanta, he was the CFO of their iron ore division. Welcome, Nilesh.
Thanks, Razum. It's a pleasure to be part of this forum. I'm very excited to be here today and look forward to really an energizing conversation.
Thank you. Welcome. Also joining us today, Aparna Surbi, CFO and CHRO of Caliber Technologies. Aparna is a fellow member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and also a graduate in law from Mumbai University. She was the first women member of the Hyderabad branch of the ICAI and also served as the chairman of the branch during 2006 and 7. Welcome, Aparna. So proud to have you here.
Thanks, Razum. Glad to be here today.
Welcome. Also, amongst the panelists, we have Daesh Angle, Director of Finance with Capita. Daesh is a senior finance leader, again with almost over 2 decades here of all-round finance experience in leadership roles in MNC IT services and manufacturing. He's done a gamut of roles across the finance function, including financial planning and analysis, treasury, pricing, budgets and forecasts, etc. Welcome, Daesh.
Hey, thank you so much, Raju. It's a pleasure to be a part of this, August panel, and at the same time, having this opportunity to share my thoughts about the recent budget with a very diverse audience. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Welcome. So thank you all panelists for joining us this morning. And Daesh, let me start the program with you. A lot of what the finance minister announced on Monday in Budget 2021 has been on the wish list of MSMEs. In fact, in the last episode of the budget with HSBC series, we talked about how this budget sets the pace for India towards becoming truly self-reliant. Can we have your opening comments, please, around the same theme?
Yeah, certainly, Raju. I think first of all, we must realize that like any other Indian budget is also an exercise by the government to present how it will be incurring expenditure and how it will be funding it. And it keeps the entire country excited as each one of us have very different expectations. Right now, we're in the middle of a once in a century event where we've seen lots of lives, livelihood, jobs, threat to health, threat to economy. And therefore, I think there was always a need to come up with a budget which would eventually still be growth oriented. I think the idea was to not just to bring the economy back on track, but also ensuring that more jobs are created, not just getting the jobs back. And given the fact that we have, I think, about 6 crore plus MSMEs in the country, which employ almost about 12 to 15 crore of countrymen, I think it was quite obvious that the government would want to focus on the labor intensive manufacturing sector, the infra sector, the construction sector, because it's got very strong linkages with the economy. So I think the cornerstone of the budget, as you said rightly, has been on self-reliance with the tagline Atmanirbhar Bharat, right? And to attain the aspirational $5 trillion economy from the government side, I think government has rightly placed the focus on boosting of the manufacturing sector. Some of the key announcements like the extension of the PLI scheme, the production linked incentive scheme, covering many more sectors like say mobile sector, the electronic sector, IT hardware, pharma, etc. Plus the mega investment textile park scheme that the government announced, basically to make the textile industry globally competitive. This will also, help not just India becoming a global champion in manufacturing, but also create a supply chain ecosystem, and which can boost large investments and also the employment generation. Given, in addition to this, government has also looked at rejuvenating the urban infrastructure in schemes like Jal Bhavan Mission or even the Swachh Bharat Mission. I think which has got a huge role to play in the development of the country. So I think that's where I would want to leave up and ask the panel to comment more on this.
So Aparna, I'd move on to you, and you see how we Indians now are talking about terms like global champions or a $5 trillion economy. Things have changed. So, with your opening comments, I'd want what do you think has been the most game-changing idea in the budget 2021? And if you were to scale the budget from a scale 1 to 10, 1 being poor, 10 being super awesome, how would you rate it and why? You're on mute, Aparna.
Yeah, you asked me a lot of questions in one question, but I would like to give my thoughts. So I would definitely say I give an 8 out of 10. I'll start with the last question first. I'll answer that. I would give an 8 out of 10. And why I leave out the 2 is probably a lot more could have been done considering the effect of the pandemic on the MSMEs. So while they have doubled the budget, doubled the allocation for MSMEs, I'm sure that a lot more could have been done because MS have borne the brunt of the crippling effects of the pandemic to a great extent. But I would say that there is a clear intention which has been displayed in the budget, and that is an enabling budget. So let me just give you some aspects in which the budget has been enabling to MSMEs. The first is, I think, by creating a market. So when they created a market, the moment the capital budget has been increased by more than 35%, and so many projects have been announced, it opens up a lot of demand for goods which normally MSMEs manufacture, and also services in the tech sector which can contribute to this infrastructure growth a lot. So this will open up the market. The other thing which is very, very critical, which I feel is increasing the ease of doing business. By simplifying a lot of processes for OPCs and private limited companies, where most MSMEs would be in that sector. So it has made life easy for the MSMEs to do business. So the compliances are less. So when the small company definition already has been brought effect to. So these are things which could make ease of doing business good in the country, and that would probably encourage more FDI into the country as well, because foreign investors dread Indian laws. So that is one major thing which has been brought in. The other thing which I can say is by bringing in protection for the businesses here, protection in the sense by increasing customs duties on imported products, they have made Indian MSMEs get the opportunity to make their prices more competitive. And that would help Indian production and make the Make in India campaign. So that is one more thing. The other thing which is there is a definite allocation for skill development. There's a 500 crore allocation for skill development. I'm sure that is not enough, but at least it's a step in the right direction. So that is an enabler as well, because we would face a big problem now having a shortage of skilled labor. The other thing is relaxing of labor laws, allowing women to work in night shifts. So especially if you take it in conjunction with some of the other changes which have been brought in. So that would actually bring up tremendous scope for at least manufacturing companies to double their production and really become global champions. I think this is where, if I may say, that if you give your son fish to eat, you're feeding him for one day. But if you teach him to fish, you are actually feeding him for a lifetime. I think that is the intention. But having said that, we have to see how this intention will be translated into real action, how it will be financed, because a lot of things like privatization and all will depend on many factors. So this is my take on the budget. One positive I see is, especially from a chartered accountant point of view, is that there has been the temptation to bring in something like a COVID tax or reintroduce wealth tax was resisted by them, and that's a good sign because stable tax laws always augur good for the economy. This is my take on the budget.
Okay. No, thank you. Well said. Mayur, opening comments from you, and how are you rating the budget on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah, thanks, Razum. And I think from my point of view, I think it's an extremely strong, forward-looking budget with a lot of focus on improving physical, digital, and financial infrastructure. It has several steps to boost capital expenditure, and I think ultimately drive public consumption. And that's what really is needed. And as we are aware, I think we've read in economics, any investment which goes into infrastructure, and in fact, there are lots more to boost textiles, automobiles, healthcare, etc., which have been provided in the budget. They have a multiplier effect. And I think that's what the intention has been, to boost that consumption and have that multiplier effect. So I think it will, the budget has the potential to create jobs, to drive rapid growth and generate well-being for all. I think that's, the broad gist. At an overall level, in terms of my rating, I think it'll be similar to what Aparna said, which will be 8 on 10. I think there are two key things from the budget, more from a banking sector, that I would just like to highlight. One is the whole focus on privatization of various government organizations, and specifically in the banking sector, IDBI Bank and two other banks that they've named, and with a longer term view to have maybe at a most of 4 PSUs. Therefore, the government's intent has been very clear that it is going to be, minimum government and maximum governance. And I think that's the right thing to do. The other thing which has been announced, I think, which was being looked at very, very closely or being asked for some time, is the whole piece around the bad bank. I think that will help the banking sector quite a bit to ease lending. So yeah, that's my initial overall view of the budget, Razum.
Okay, Mayur, I'd come back to you on bad banks, but Nilesh, we're all saying that it's a great budget, fantastic, all numbers, but when it comes to rating, we're giving 8. We still do not have 10. So, what I feel is what I feel, and that's a personal opinion, is the government. I think it's taking on whatever it takes to really become bold and to become a self-reliant India. Why not 10? What do you see? Where's the number going?
So I think I have a couple of comments and thoughts on the whole sort of the way we should think about this budget. And before coming to why the rating not of 10, I think the choices which was confronted to a government is a very important conversation. FY21, we will exit the year with close to 10% fiscal deficit. And therefore, I think there can always be a temptation to go and get your house in order, so to say, by correcting the fiscal deficit. So that's a choice which was confronting in front of our government. Should we correct our fiscal deficit or should we invest for growth? And we're coming from two macro events happening around us. One is the pandemic, which has disrupted the global ecosystem. And B, I think, which is not always realized, is that a lot of multinationals are now wanting to move away from China and set up manufacturing in multiple places. And I think what this budget is rightly done, therefore, is not making that choice of getting the house in order through fiscal deficit, but actually spending money in growing the country. And I think that is a fantastic choice which has been done. As to why I would still personally not rate it as a 10 budget, I think it's very simple. Okay, I think in my mind, uh, the Keynesian theory of making large investment, okay, is a 20th century theory, and you are applying it in the 21st century as if you're still in the 20th century. So the spend on road infrastructure is great. I love that. But you know what I would have loved more is the spend on digital infrastructure. How can India gain global technology leadership? I think is a question this budget has an answer for me. And I think that's the prime opportunity today in front of India. We have some of the best skilled workforce. We produce more engineers than anybody else does in the world. And therefore, we clearly have an opportunity to be a technology leader for the world. And I think that's a miss which I sorely find in this budget, which is why I wouldn't put this budget as 10. I would have loved that some of the investment was coming on the technology side because that has another level of multiplier impact both on scale as well as efficiencies.
Okay. So, Aparna, I bring this to you. Nilesh just mentioned about Keynes law. So, what I believe and what the trend has been, the government is focusing more on the sales law. The government is trying to boost up production and trying to invest more on firms. As the production will increase, employment would be generated, and then that's how the income goes on to the households, and that's how they start consumption. But do you believe Keynes law is missing? Do you believe we need to give money to the households, to the middle income age parts of India? What that means is, do you feel we need to incentivize expenditure?
I don't believe that incentivizing expenditure is the solution. I think what it has done is in the right spirit. Increasing infrastructure is going to bring on all-round development, including putting money in the consumer's hands. So incentivizing and giving SOPs is not which is going to work out in the long run. I think that what it has done is correct.
If I can just sort of
But
add to
what
what
I
Aparna
Yes. What I feel is missing also is that it presupposes that we are not going to get another COVID pandemic, or we are not going to get the second strain of the virus. So there is nothing which actually takes that into account of what could happen if something happens like that happens. That's what is missing. I think. Yeah,
Okay.
Nilesh, sir.
Sorry, yeah,
And
the thought which I had
go
here
ahead.
was
Go
that,
ahead.
and I echo what Aparna is saying in terms of directly putting money into the hand of the consumers. If we look at the consumer confidence index, which RBI publishes every month, then today our consumer confidence index is in 50s. It was in hundreds just about a year and a half back. So the consumer is not ready to spend. The consumer doesn't have a confidence. Putting money in the hands of consumer is not necessarily going to result into demand creation. And that's where I sort of echo what Aparna is saying. If the consumption is not going to come from private sector, it is then important that public sector is spending, which is what this government is doing.
Yeah, Raju,
Okay.
one more point that I would want to add here, and I'm slightly, digressing, but taking over from what Parna mentioned some time back. I think one key aspect that's come out, and that's strictly not a financial aspect, is the ease of doing business for the small and medium enterprises. I
Mm-hmm.
think for a change, government has acknowledged that this sector is very, very important, and they need to really spend time on doing what they need, what they know best, right? So, for example, there's a significant reduction in the compliance burden that these companies will have. I think one is in the definition of the small company itself, where they have made changes in the way a small company will be, defined, which actually will mean, many lakh companies will now come under the definition of small company, and therefore their compliance burden is going to get significantly lesser in terms of, areas like not having board meetings, not having to think about auditors, etc. Which means they're going to actually have to have more time with their own selves doing what they do best, right? Because we are a country where bureaucratic hassles have impacted all of us, and not less for any of the small and medium enterprises. So I think this is a big positive for them that they should be looking at. Similarly, for startups also, they've extended the benefit by one more year in terms of the tax exemptions that they will get, the capital gains exemptions that they will get. Similarly, promotion of the one-person company, promoting faceless tax assessments. I think these are the areas which government is really tried to put some things in direct writing. Of course, we have to see how this can get easily executed, because one is actually what you read in print, and one is actually what you see on the ground. But I think a start has been made to enable the small and medium enterprises to focus better on what they do.
To add to what Dayesh said, at ease of doing business, there's one more provision which is very, very important for us to note, and that is easy conversion of OPCs to private limited companies and public limited companies. Whenever they want to get in investors, that would be a big handicap. It was an OPC and it cannot be converted into a private limited company. So now they can form an OPC, and as the business grows, it can be converted into a private limited company to invite investment into the company. So that opens doors for a lot of capital to be chasing the business. So I think that's one of the important things.
That's a very strong point for the viewers. Uh, Brings me back to Mayur. You mentioned about bad banks. So Mayur, over the last 2 decades, you'd see and you'd, I'm sure, approve that the service sector, and that forms a large part of the MSMEs as well, they've been the key drivers of the economy. And even if I say that they've been a very strong vehicle of employment generation, wouldn't be wrong. You mentioned about bad banks, and this sector right now is struggling due to a lack of funds. So how does this concept entail them? Anything for them?
Yeah, thanks, Razum. See, one key challenge that has been there in front of the government has been to encourage lending, right, at an overall level. I mean, obviously, banks are extremely hesitant in the wake of rising NPAs and in the wake of COVID. They are being very, very careful with their lending. The need for a bad bank was being discussed for some time now. In fact, the NPAs at an overall level as of September end in 2020 was around 7% of overall loans. Now, that's a huge number. And in fact, in some of the PSUs, it is in the middle double digits. So clearly, it was a big problem. But I think the announcement of the bad bank is a move in the right direction. I think it'll help in quicker resolution of the NPS, simply because you're now getting one dedicated entity to work on that. What it does is that it will help to reduce the provisioning requirements of banks and therefore enhance their ability to lend to the productive sectors of the economy. Now, what happens is typically a lot of the management bandwidth is taken away in the recovery of the stressed assets. Now that time will be released, and the banks can therefore focus on lending to the right sectors, including the sectors that you spoke about, the service sector, etc. Of course, there are other viewpoints around whether this leads to reckless lending, because the banks know that it can be, the money can be given away. But I think there are more positives than negatives to this whole announcement. And just in terms of how it will work, the stressed assets will be given away to an asset reconstruction company, an ARC. That ARC will then further find investors, and AIF, the alternate investment funds, etc., to whom they can sell off these stressed debts and therefore recover monies, etc. So it does seem like a sound solution. We'll have to see how it can work. So
Okay.
yeah, that's my view on the bad bank.
So that means banks would now be able to focus on fresh lending, given the establishment of such independent firms.
It should help. It should certainly help. See, the government had announced the ECLGS scheme earlier in last year, in any case, and a large part of the increased outlay of 15,000 crores that has been announced for MSMEs will go towards this ECLGS scheme itself. I think about 70% of the ECLGS scheme has already been availed of. It is available till the end of March. So that's one way in which lending will be propelled as well. So I think, yes, there are steps which have been taken to push this. Let's see how it goes ahead. I mean, I can give you the example of my own bank. In HSBC, there are various products which are available and which we have been using to, of course, ensure that lending is made available to the right customer. Of course, there is a little more prudence and providence in analyzing loan applications which come through. But for MSMEs, I think we have been consistently lending with our secured lending products, unsecured products, the CGT MSE, or the new ECLGS scheme, etc. We are taking into account all of these and ensuring that wherever it's possible, the lending can continue.
Looks very optimistic to have strong banks like HSBC supporting sectors, MSMEs, and in such hard times. Uh, Moving the discussion forward, Nilesh, a lot of companies have responded in their own ways to what has happened in the past few months, and we've all been talking about the pandemic. So, my question, one from you would be: do you believe COVID-19 was a creator or a disruptor? And then I'd want to add on that being a e-store company, how do you think the overall budget and the pandemic has affected the customer experience for companies like yours, and how are you tackling, and what advice would you want to give to viewers?
Sure. So, two very different questions. I think was COVID a destructor or a creator? Very philosophically, in every destruction there is a creation, isn't it? And I think COVID has destroyed a lot, but it has obviously therefore germinated a lot of things. I know it's a very philosophical statement to make sitting from a distance. The people or the businesses which suffer the brunt of disruptions, okay, will never think about it that way. And I think we all need to have a level of empathy when we make a statement that creation comes from destruction, because at the heart of destruction are also lives and livelihoods. So I'll definitely don't mean it in a very philosophical way, and I'm very sensitive to the havoc that COVID has created to a lot of small lives and to a lot of small businesses. Having said that, the creation which has come out of COVID is a significant change in consumer behavior. We all are now not wanting to have, for instance, somebody coming into our house. We are avoiding contacts. Social distancing has become a norm. Shops are open far lesser number of times. Travel is still restricted, and therefore a lot of purchases has moved from physical infrastructure to digital infrastructure. And therefore, in the havoc that COVID has created, the e-commerce businesses like Pepperfry have definitely benefited. To that extent, honestly, we've been insulated, and the ecosystem which worked with Pepperfry. Finally, we are a platform. We don't necessarily manufacture our products. We don't necessarily store our products, but the businesses who have been working with Pepperfry have honestly flourished during this period, because the consumption is just moved from physical stores onto Pepperfry. Uh, as you are aware, furniture is a very large category in India. Furniture is manufactured by 500,000 MSMEs spread across the width of India. Handicraft is a big part of furniture, and I think India has a very, very unique cultural advantage when it comes to handicraft. It is something that has been happening in our country for centuries, and it is a legacy that we bring to us. And I think it is the ecosystem which has therefore worked with the e-commerce businesses which have done well. So I think that's been a benefit here. But if we were to sort of sit back and therefore take a learning out of what's happened around us, and that learning, if I was to sort of reflect from our participants here, which are most of the folks are from MSME sectors, then I think the learning I would take out of this is technology is here to stay. And in whatever we are doing in our businesses, we need to be able to adopt technology. I think that's the learning I will take out of this. All small businesses generally tend to work with other large businesses. Most of the MSMEs in India are B2B businesses, they are not B2C businesses, and therefore you're always working with a larger business. If you're working with a larger business, my sort of suggestion to you would be, uh, yes, develop your business, yes, chase your money from the bigger business, but this is also an opportunity to learn from the bigger business on how could they help you successfully deploy technology in your business. So that's how I would think about it. It's a significant disruption which has happened. In that is the germination of a new way in which customer is behaving. Technology is the mantra for us. And therefore, everybody who is today in a business which is not necessarily using technology, my sort of suggestion would be work with your partners, work with your business associates. I'm sure people, even from your banking system, can be able to help you on how to make your payment seamless. Okay, and that takes out friction from your system, that takes out all the transaction costs from your system. So technology can be deployed everywhere. Figure out ways in which you can use technology to make your business efficient and to scale up your business.
Very well explained. Daesh, your views on this, please. How do you see this helping?
I think Nilesh made a valid point at the beginning of the discussion, saying that government has not, made enough budget allocation for the digital infrastructure development, and I fully agree with him. I think we have become a very significant contributor to the economy today. I think it's a strong entrepreneurial system that has evolved over the last 2 or 3 decades in India. But I would also, want to look at what are the opportunities that we can see in the entire budget. I think one thing as all Indians, we are very good at spotting opportunities even in the crisis. And when you want to look at the budget a little deeper, you do find that there are some opportunities which can, really give development or a boost to the digital system. Let's look at something like the One Nation, One Ration Card scheme, where the government, tries to achieve inclusive development for the aspirational India, wants to cover all the farmers, rural India, migrant workers, etc. Similarly, the proposal to launch a portal to collect relevant information about building construction workers and how it can help government in formulating the health, housing, skills, insurance, etc. Then the government's proposal to hold a 2021 census in a digital fashion. All this would mean a significant requirement of a digital backbone for implementation and tracking. And therefore, if you want to look at, I think this is a huge scale of opportunity that we're looking at from a digital standpoint. While the government would have not come out very overtly in that, I don't think these initiatives can be implemented without that strong digital backbone. I think therein lies the huge opportunity for us, Raju. Now, even looking at something like the education sector, and why I'm looking at it, because there are some initiatives which have been announced in the budget which pertain to the education sector. So, for example, let's look at the setting up of the national digital education architecture. This again for supporting educational initiatives and to develop this ecosystem for the larger masses. Next is the initiative on national apprenticeship training for all the ITI graduates. Now, ITIs, we don't even know the number of ITIs which are prevailing in the country and a kind of employment that get generated out of the ITIs, right? But if you look at this scheme about national apprenticeship training, again provides huge opportunity for digital development. So again is the case with the NPST scheme that has been devised, National Profession Standard for Teachers, for enhancing capabilities of teachers. So this will certainly give a big boost for the digital economy of the country, and I think we have the capability to take this forward to a much different level altogether.
Okay. Aparna, I'd move on to you. What do you advise? There are a lot of MSMEs in the audience today who are trying to innovate something. So what's that one advice that you really want to give them, given the backdrop of this budget and the time that we are in right now?
From a technology perspective, yeah, I agree with Nilesh and Mahesh. The ones who have actually, leveraged technology to their benefit are the ones who really survived the COVID crisis. And that's an important point to note. So I would say that, like Nilesh has already mentioned, we should leverage technology in our business. And coming to one area where we can really, where technology is a game changer, as well as the COVID crisis has opened up this as a big opportunity, is the edtech sector, where upskilling is a very important thing for the youth nowadays for getting better employability. So we see that there are a lot of graduates coming out, but their employability level is very less. So if they upskill themselves with continuously changing technologies, continuous upskilling is a necessity. So upskilling, there is a lot of scope for upskilling now, which is available at very, very affordable rates. So this is one area where edtech companies would come up to provide these online learning platforms which can upskill people. So it has a two-way effect. It's not only good for themselves, it's good for the economy as well, and good for India as well. I think that's one area which they can look at. And coming to the trends, if you see the infrastructure growth and all, there's a lot of openings which can come up. I mean, not openings, I would say demand which will come up for items which are manufactured by MSMEs. So take the metro rail, for instance. There could be a lot, they have mentioned metro rails for tier 2 cities as well. So this would open up opportunities for things like lamps inside the compartments or the signaling systems and all, which are all manufactured by MSMEs. So I think these are things which they can look at to upscale their capabilities, the manufacturing capabilities, and also to leverage technology for design so that the quality improves, efficiency improves, and overall, their competitiveness improves. I think this can be done by MSMEs.
Okay. See, we're talking about the edtech and upskilling sector. So, Daesh, my question is to you. So, do you see any immediate opportunities that the skilling or should I say, the edtech sector should put their eye on, or any key trends or those areas of opportunities that you can identify for them that they can start seizing their opportunities on?
Yeah, I think the key one which I mentioned was about the ITIs alone, right? As I said, it's a very unglamorous sector from education perspective. People look at more of people, get very enthused and their eyes get lit open when somebody talks of the IITs, but nobody wants to even blink a second time when they hear about ITIs. But these are the basically what you say, the breeding ground for a lot of technical initiatives from India, right? And now the way the growth is going to happen with the government opening up, all these sectors, especially in the manufacturing side. I think the leveraging of technology also will be the key for these resources to become more employable, and therefore how the education sector can use the digital technologies to collaborate together, not just from upskilling perspective but helping them know to use technology better tomorrow. I think will go a long way in shaping up the future of the country. I know it's very, I would say, a little bold kind of a statement, but I firmly believe that digital technologies can help this sector or this employable market in a very, very big way. Because we've always spoken of the people coming out of education institutions in India not being strictly employable. I think this can really change because technology can help, meet, rather bring together the requirements of the nascent industry and the employability of these resources which were going to be available. Because as I said, not many countries have this kind of a youth profile which will be employable over the next couple of decades. So therein lies the huge opportunity to immediately start with, Rajam.
Okay. And I just stopped the discussion for one question that's off the track, but I believe it's the need for a lot of MSMEs. Mayur, a lot of companies that are the MSMEs, and this is from a service sector perspective, they say that they do have their turnovers in the span of 1 to 5 crores, or 1 to 10 crores, should I say. But being a service-oriented organization, they do not have enough collaterals or factories or equipment. So, what's that one advice that you'd want to give them if they're looking for securing a loan in the next 1 to 2 years? Anything that you can comment here?
Sorry, Razum, I think that question was intended for me. Yes, as I said, I think banks do provide unsecured loans as well. And when people don't have collaterals, there are facilities available with various banks. Of course, banks are a lot more cautious on unsecured loans, and especially so in the current scenarios, as I already mentioned. But I'd like to reiterate again that, for instance, the ECLGS scheme is available, and that's an opportunity for such MSMEs to go ahead and avail of loans from the ECLGS scheme. It's available at least till March. If it gets extended or not, we don't know, but at least till March it is available. And there is a fair bit of allocation which has been made towards that, and MSMEs can avail of loans from there.
And any advice for them for doing digital transaction as opposed to cash transactions that you'd want
No,
to comment on?
absolutely. In fact, adding to what Nilesh was saying, clearly for MSMEs, I think they do need to invest at an overall level in digital alternate modes of reaching out to customers as per the changed consumer behavior. I mean, customers are, we've been hearing there was, of course, has been a change in behavior in terms of how they look at things, how they buy things, how they move out, travel, etc., etc. And therefore the businesses have to steer towards that. In fact, I'll just give you an example. We have partnered with a fintech platform called Global Linkers, and we try and help MSMEs not just on the banking side, but with that fintech partner on things beyond the banking side as well. Since the onset of COVID, we've seen and one of the services they provide is how to convert your physical store into an e-store, and we've seen a significant amount of take up of that facility on this platform from a lot of our customers. So that's where people have to start evaluating what, as we've been saying, adopt the right sort of technology which will help you get to the customer in the manner that the customer wants. In terms of the banking system, clearly, we are seeing things like the UPI payment system, which has revolutionized the whole payment industry. It has become so convenient for customers, and therefore the MSMEs need to figure out ways to ensure that they are able to accept those kind of payment facilities. So there are lots of digital modes available on the banking side as well, and that's where MSMEs should definitely direct their attention to.
I'm sure that helps a lot. Nilesh, any advice from you that comes from that's applicable to companies that are looking to onboard technology for providing direct service? Anything that you'd like to give them?
Yeah, interesting. So when Mayur was sort of just speaking before me, I was looking at the sort of spectrum of opportunity which is there in front of us. Okay, uh, if you're looking to onboard a new customer, you can online check the GSTN number. Okay, if you're looking to make payments, you can use UPI. If you're looking to receive payments, you could use UPI. If you want to put up a store on Pepperfry or Amazon or Flipkart, you are able to do that. If you are working with any big organization as a B2B partner, most of them are happy to give you API-based access to their ERP systems so that you can actually know what is the amount of inventory that they're carrying, and you are able to plan your own operations in line with the amount of inventory that they're carrying. If you're looking to have training imparted to your staff, which is in the office, you can use e-modules. If you are looking to impart training to your staff, which is in the field, you can again use multiple apps where they don't even have to come into the office and but can be trained when they are in the field. So literally, if you think about any aspect of your business today, okay, in some way or form, okay, there is technology which is available to you. Okay, there is nothing in our business today. Okay, Pepperfry today has a huge number of field staff which does delivery. Nobody of them ever comes into the office, and you are still able to give them training on the go. So if we were to just ask ourselves the question, is there a simpler, better, cheaper way of doing this? I think you will find answers somewhere in the digital space. So my sort of uh, uh, my sort of suggestion, it's not necessarily an advice, but my sort of suggestion would be uh, maybe if I just take a step back before that, Razan, I've always believed that MSMEs actually are the original startups, isn't it? I mean, startup is just as a new terminology that we've coined. But if you think about it, what is an MSME? That's an entrepreneur, which is now called as a founder, who is taking a risk, which is a startup. Okay, so MSMEs are actually the true startups of India, and therefore don your startup hat again. Okay, ask yourself the questions: how can I do every part of my business differently? And believe me, you will find multiple solutions where you can take a lot of cost, a lot of friction out of your system. So that's my sort of suggestion. Challenge everything. There is an opportunity to do it better, cheaper, very differently. You're on mute, Rajan.
My bad. The game, I'm still learning the mute and unmute game, so pardon me. So, Aparna, we were talking about taking on the challenges, as Nilesh said. So, I'd want to understand from you. See, the time that is we are in right now, it's one of those very crucial time for companies. They're trying to manage a balance between their limited funds and unlimited opportunities. So, what's that one advice that you'd want to give to entrepreneurs and founders who are watching us right now, or who would be seeing us on the cloud? What's that one advice that you'd want to give them in terms of risk and the current very unlimited opportunities that are there?
In terms of risk, I would say bet your money on technology, because if you see, this has opened up opportunities for work from anywhere for companies. So you don't need to have your staff in office and spend a huge amount on infrastructure and all that. So if you can actually digitize your business, in the sense you can have websites which sell like Pepperfry has done, we can actually have people working out of anywhere. So not only does it give you access to a huge talent pool which is available across India, you don't even have to spend a lot on the infrastructural costs. So my this is for the limited resources. Bet on technology, adopt data sciences, that is going to help, data analytics that will really help in managing operations across the country, and that would probably help them meet the challenges. From a banker's perspective, from the loans perspective, I would say that yes, there is some cynicism in bankers even now, and especially MSMEs bear the brunt of it, because when you really need the money, it is difficult for them to lend. And then when you really start doing good, that's when they come forward to lend to you. So that's a bit of a paradox here, but I think bankers should also come forward for that. There are investors available with the rates of interest going down. There's a lot of capital chasing business. And I think if we are able to adopt technology, show that our operations are efficient and have great promise, I think a lot of investors can also be brought in into the business. And that is what can help grow the business better. You're again on mute, Razu.
Pardon me. Upskilling is what you're saying, and which brings me to think about that. There's a very famous saying which says that if we do not invest on ourselves, who else will, right? So, does that investment has now taken a phase of investing and upskilling our organizations? Is it time that the MSMEs should now be focusing on themselves? Daesh, my question is to you. What suggestion would you give to MSMEs? Is it time for them to look at outsourcing their services and their functions?
I think certainly there's a lot of scope in doing it, Rajan, because we've always believed in doing what our core competency is. But MSMEs being in a startup mode, in a smaller setup, they sometimes end up doing almost all the things, all the running around which is required. Because sometimes you feel, okay, I don't have the skills to do everything, but I'm still required to do something. I'm forced to do everything. It may be a compliance requirement. It may be something else. Maybe my skill is in manufacturing, but I don't know how to handle accounts, right? But I'm still required to maintain my books of accounts. So there are so many functions beyond your core competence which can be outsourced, which can be digitized today, and this is only for your own good, right? I'm sure there will be so many benefits. So earlier, people would shirk from making investment in something like a non-core area because they said, "Oh, I want to rather invest my money in my core business for buying machines, for doing production, but not in some ancillary systems." Right? They can still do that today, but because they have a facility of doing the non-core things in an outsourced manner. Somebody can help them digitize the processes. Somebody can help them simplify the processes with the use of technology. I think therefore the challenge for all of us in the MSME sector would be to take that step and explore something different, see the benefits of use of technology, see the benefits of use of digitization. And I'm sure they will certainly help themselves by doing so, because they will see the results in 6 to 8 months' time.
I would like to add one thing to what Dayesh said. The gig economy also can be, used for this. The gig economy is rising. A lot of companies have done really well to use the gig economy to their benefits. I think even MSMEs can try doing that. Instead of increasing their fixed costs, they could use the gig economy to use them as you. I mean, it's like pay as you use. So that would be a good idea.
Absolutely.
Okay, I think we're running short of time now, so I'd quickly go on to Mayur for taking his closing comments for today, please.
Yeah, see, I think in the budget, the right intent has been displayed with the announcement of the various reforms and proposals. I think we've all stated that we've given some ratings of 8, etc. for the budget. I think what we have to look out for are swift steps that are required on the implementation front, and I'm sure that we will see those being taken by the government to ensure that whatever they've announced as proposals get implemented timely and swiftly, and that's really what we'll be watching out for.
Nilesh, closing comments from you, please.
Yeah, so I think my closing comments are going to be in the domino of saying that when the tide rises, all boats move up. And I think what's happening in India today with government making so much investment, is that the whole tide is going to rise up in India, and everybody who's a small business, medium business, large business has an opportunity to just grow faster. Keep your eyes open to the opportunity around you, grab it fast and soon, take your bets. Because this is really a time to be optimistic about India. That's the way I think about it.
Thank you. Aparna, closing comments from you, please.
Yeah, that was very well said, Nilesh, and the tide is high. Move on. I would like to say that because government is actually leveraging data sciences, data analytics, and artificial intelligence and all for gathering data, it is very important that even MSMEs adopt data sciences and data analytics and see that their compliances are very good, because that is very much necessary to free your company from risk. So adopt good technology for good compliance. That's my take.
Okay. Dayesh, I'd want to add something here. See, we've been talking about rapid digitization and how we should adopt technology, but several of the MSMEs have been really badly threatened due to the absence of an online presence, while the pandemic has not really come to an end yet. So with your closing comments, I really want one more advice for such MSMEs that are really trying very hard to get ahead and rise from the ashes again. So closing comments from you, please.
Yeah, I think the budget is going to provide that platform going forward, right? I think it's the first budget of the new decade, Rajum. And it's only talking about the opportunities that are available. So I think MSMEs have to go and seize that opportunity. As I said in my previous comment, there are opportunities available today which probably were not available, say, 10 years back or 15 years back. We have a lot of open markets available today to go and explore. Your platforms available today, like what Aparna mentioned some time back, that you can actually go and outsource your services. And I think that is where they will have to take that initiative to go out, step out, and explore other digital services which can help them. Because today these answers are available. I mean, you have the gift of the internet today that you can check for any option that you want, and you will have Google throwing at you multiple options of doing different things. I think that's an option that we'll have to explore going forward. Make use of this opportunity to explore, and I'm sure you will find those options to improve your own business as an MSME. I think it was a right statement which was made earlier when I think Nilesh said that these are the original startups, right? So I think they deserve all the benefits of the revised or the new economy of the country now.
All right. Thank you so much for that. With that, we come to an end of today's discussion. And as a summary, again, I want to really summarize. It's time for the MSMEs to invest in themselves, start looking for different technology, for providing direct services, and for the startups that are focused on health tech, ed tech, digital offerings, financial inclusion, etc., are really the direct beneficiaries from the likely announced budget. And the strengthening of the Atmanirbhar Bharat will bring a lot of opportunities, and there's a long way to cover. So with that, thank you so much, all the panelists, for giving your valuable time today. And it was really a very insightful session. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All the
Thank
best.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.